everybody, and welcome to another episode of Trash Takes. I'm Andrew Coach. You can call me Coach. Follow me at the Real Mr. 83 on Twitter. I'm here with my co-host Al Hill. You can follow him at sensation_Al. But there's an X where the O should be. And this is Trash Takes. You can follow the Trash Takes 3 on Twitter. Al, my goodness, one of the things that I said to you is anytime we do one of these episodes, I want to make sure that we have a timeless type of genre or timeless type of topic that we can talk about so that no matter when you listen to it, it's relevant. And I want to sprinkle in some current events and stuff like that. But every time I want to do it, the sports world throws just more exciting current stuff that we just cannot ignore.
Yep.
Right off the bat, I just want to praise. I'm so ecstatic because everything I spoke into the existence last week about the Giants has come to fruition. Kenny Golladay is a New York Giant. Adoree Jackson is a New York Giant. The free agency has been so well to me. I'm a very, very happy man.
They did it. Yeah. They held him hostage.
They did it all.
And they put a gun to his head, and then he eventually signed. He caved. He signed the contract,
yeah.
Bro. He's a Giant.
Yep.
They need to get it done. I think it's probably more than Giants fans would have liked. It's a bit more expensive. But, you're not really paying anybody else, so fuck it, right?
No. Well, with last year and this year, there's some money in the books. But what do we talk about? Money's not real in the NFL. The cap's not real in the NFL. And then what I thought would have been a stretch, listen, you never think you get everything right? You never think, all the guys we bring in, we're going to end up signing, right? Everyone's saying, no one wants to sign with the Giants. Everyone's talking that shit on the internet. Everyone's talking that shit on Twitter. And Adoree Jackson was supposed to come into Giants land, talk to us, and then go to Philadelphia and talk to those guys. But he said, fuck those tanking losers. I'm not even going to take a seat, not even take a meeting with the Eagles. I'm signing right here with Logan Ryan, with Joe Judge, and everybody who recruited Adoree Jackson to a healthy contract, to a nice one. And we got everybody we ever wanted. We signed some guards / tackles. And, we may not be done, but heading into this draft, oh, man, I am very, very, very happy. I'm not sure if you can say the same about the Jets, but that's
sure
more...
can, bro. Yeah, no, Giants definitely made those moves were really good. And the Jets followed it up with some good moves of their own. Sheldon Rankins on the defensive line, big name, another really good contract. I talked about the Corey Davis contract where one of the years is actually just a fallacy. It's fake. If the Jets don't want him, they could just cut him. They did the same thing with Sheldon Rankins. It's like a 1-year deal with like a pseudo second year if they want to bring him back. It's basically an option that's not an option. That dude is a big man. He's a people mover. He's going to do some things on the defensive line. Him, Quinton Williams, Carl Lawson. It's a nice little core there. They signed Vinny Curry. That's nice. So you got him on the opposite side since they're going to do some kind of rotation with that second defensive end. And then they went and they added Tevin Coleman. Not, a star.
Oh, okay.
Not a star, but they needed a running back, and they got a running back. And they got a running back that Robert Saleh is familiar with, and I love it. It is fantastic. And I'm going to do it. I know you hate him. You hate him with all of your heart. You're very vocal on Twitter. You hate the man. I was suggested some YouTube highlights of Zach Wilson yesterday. And I watched them. And this man can sling it.
There's no fault of Zach Wilson himself. He did nothing for me to hate him. I hate him because of everyone on Twitter that had no idea Zach Wilson from Zac Efron 1 month ago. But ever since the season ended, all the talking heads, the scouts, the everybody on Twitter needed something else to talk about besides just Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. So they push this kid like he's the next, the second coming of you-know-who.
Yep.
And it's driving me nuts. So, yes, now I am on the Zach Wilson hate parade.
Bro, let me tell you, I got suggested a YouTube video of his highlights from last year, and he does some things with the football.
Yeah.
Understandably, they're highlights, so of course it's going to be made for him to look good. But, making the right decisions, pulling the ball down when he needs to. It was a lot of read option kind of stuff. But it was some really good read option, a lot of bootlegs and throws on the run. I don't know if you saw Twitter blew up today for his pro day. He made one throw in particular where he turned to his right, faked a handoff, bootleg out to his left, and running this way, turned and threw the ball like opposite directions.
It was
45
it was a
yards
Mahomes,
downfield.
It was
Flick
a
of the wrist.
Mahomes-esque throw.
Like,
Yes.
it was special. And that kind of throw is what makes it in the NFL. That looked really good. And I've been saying that the Jets should take the tackle from Oregon, but I am significantly less upset now, having seen it, if they take Zach Wilson.
So let me jump into that. Right when I was starting to get a grip on directions of where this draft was going to go, because once free agency clear up, you're seeing, what teams have what players in place and what teams have what holes, and you start to formulate in your head, okay, Trevor Lawrence going first. The Jets, I thought, was taking Sewell, second. The Miami was chilling at 3. They have some options. They can go Jamar Chase. They can go the other tackle. They can trade whatever they might do, right? So now I have no idea what's going on.
Now they're not chilling at 3.
Exactly. They're doing the opposite of chilling. In fact, they haven't chilled on one pick. They start off? So they started off trading their third overall pick.
They went from 3 to 12, and they picked up a third this year, a first next year, and a first in 2023.
Correct.
So they picked up 2 firsts and a third, and they moved back from 3 to 12.
Right. But then they took that 12 and said, LOL Eagles, you're not chilling at 6. All that tanking to get to the 6 overall was bullshit. Take our 12. We'll give you a first next year, and we'll swap like a third and fourth. We want 6. So now Miami goes back into Jamar Chase land. The Eagles are out of what I would look at as crazy offensive weapon land, so I don't know what they're looking for. They move behind my Giants, and the thing is, I'm very happy with it because the way I see it is the 49ers move up to 3 because they are looking for a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, so that move, and I think they ended up netting, like they moved back 3 spots, ended up netting a first and a third, and they moved back in the 4th or something like that. Something weird. Yeah. Something weird. That 4th round pick, whatever, don't care. They ended up netting a first and a third. They moved back, obviously, from 3 to 6 now, after moving back to 12 and trading back up, whatever. The weirdest thing is they traded up, the Niners traded up to 3 from 12, and then they said, Jimmy G's our guy.
I think that's false.
Yeah, so you have to assume that Trey Lance or Zach Wilson is a target. Obviously, Fields. I think it's more funny if the Jets take Zach Wilson now, knowing that the 49ers probably want Zach Wilson.
No, see, I don't. So
Robert
here's the thing. Now
Robert Saleh gets to fuck the 49ers one time.
But the thing is the reason why I feel like it wouldn't end up screwing them, and why I think they have somebody else on their mind that they might think the Falcons were targeting, is because there's no way you make that trade with Miami without offering the same package to the Jets, and there's no way you get rejected from the Jets and still say, oh yeah, we're getting Zach Wilson at 3.
No, unless... All right, so now the Jets don't want to move back to 12 because they're looking at either one of the quarterbacks or the tackle, right? So at 12, neither is there. So maybe the Jets said no. There's a worm. I mean, this is a wormhole. You're gonna go down this. It'll never end. Maybe the Jets said no. Right now they're at 3. Now there is a potential chance that the Jets say, yeah, you know what? We want Sewell anyway. You're not gonna take him. Or there could be some crazy-ass weird shit where the Jets take Zach Wilson, and in this world where Jimmy G actually is the guy for the 49ers, there is a potential that they traded all the way up to 3 to jump Cincinnati at 5 to take the offensive tackle. As
maybe,
dumb,
that
sounds so unbelievably stupid when you look at it, to trade all the way up from 12 to 3 for an offensive tackle. It doesn't make any sense. But if we're taking the 49ers' words at face value, that they mean what they say, that is the most likely scenario. as I'm not saying it's the right thing because I think it's stupid as all hell. It is going to ruin their franchise. They're going to get hosed because they want an offensive tackle for no reason. But that would be the alternative, is that they were trying to take the offensive tackle and they needed to jump Cincinnati, because at this point, if Cincinnati doesn't take the offensive tackle, they're all going to jail for neglect and or attempted murder of Joe Burrow.
So hear me out. Hear me out. Mike, I had a coworker, and I think he's dead wrong. So I think you're dead right, and I think he's dead wrong. However, one of Joe Burrow's former teammates, wide receiver, is available for Cincinnati.
If they take Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow will have 2 fake knees, and they will be out of quarterback.
That's exactly what I said. It's exactly what I said. I think it's ridiculous to think that if Sewell, or I think even Slater at this point, falling to Cincinnati, that they're just chilling, taking a wide receiver after watching their star franchise quarterback's leg explode to pieces because of bad offensive line play and bad protection. It's a ridiculous concept, but I like the idea. And listen, as a Giants fan, I want as many QB needy teams moving within that top 10, because the more QB needy or weapon needy teams go in that top 10, the more, listen, I don't want to get crazy, but I did a PFF mock draft, and Sewell dropped all the way to the Giants.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that'll happen, but I'm saying my targets is offensive line. My targets is Kyle Pitt. My target is obviously Jamar Chase if he can fall, or Slater. And Micah Parsons, too. So if
Slater
the more
I think Parsons
guys
might
move
be
up,
there.
yeah, the more these guys move up, the better chance that my dreams can come true. And then this offseason would just be absolutely absurd.
Yeah, because you brought the name up, a couple more quick things before we get into the meat and potatoes here. I don't know how Penn State was as bad as they were, because the numbers came out from their pro day. They had 2 linebackers run sub 4.4 40s. Mutants. Yeah. They are breeding mutant human beings at Penn State. Obviously Saquon Barkley, now we know what that man, the inhuman. And now Jason Owe ran a 4.36 at 257 pounds.
Yeah.
That is faster than Denzel Mims last year, Jets wide receiver. It's faster than Justin Jefferson. And Micah Parsons did the same thing and ran a 4.39 at 245. They're mutants.
But they're saying these numbers are juice, though.
I don't think so, because he ran like a 4.33 earlier that was unofficial too, and they assumed that he was gonna run 4.4, and apparently at practice he's cooking wide receivers, like he's cooking the wide receivers on his own team. So apparently these guys are running legit like sub 4.4 times at 250 pounds. Listen. If I got 25 pounds on those guys, I'm running like a 6'6", all right? Like, those guys are inhuman.
No, I'm not even making it, dude. My hamstring's tearing straight off the bone.
Dude,
I don't have to worry about any of that.
Those guys, the draft has there is speed everywhere in this draft. Speed is readily available this year.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
But it's becoming a foregone conclusion that in the combination of all the free agents, and Kenny G and the saxophone player and Adoree Jackson being the main parts, obviously, but along with who's making what moves in the draft, I don't want to jinx anything, but I don't see a way I walk away disappointed. I really don't.
Bro, the Jets have the option of every player in the draft except Trevor Lawrence, and I think there's I mean, listen, they could take the backup running back from Columbia University or something, and I'll be upset. There's just no way.
I saw a report that actually, and I don't know who tweeted it, but I think right before we came on, that the Jets are open to trading Sam Darnold for a non-first rounder. So he could be on the move, and that'll basically nail in the coffin Zach Wilson's your guy.
And I think that's his value is like second or third. If I get a 2 for Sam, I'm pretty happy, because that means I think from what I saw from Zach Wilson's pro day, I think the Jets addressed wide receiver enough in free agency this year. I like what they did. They're hoping that Denzel Mims is a 1, Corey Davis is a 2, Jamison Crowder in the slot, Keelan Cole is a deep threat, You have, something at running back. I think if you take Zach Wilson at 2, you probably go guard, late 1 and early 2. And now your offensive line's loaded. You have weapons there. You put Zach Wilson in a good spot, and then you got 2 firsts next year. You can do some things, see what happens.
I think you go Zach Wilson. I think you get that. The Alabama running back at your 20 some odd pick, the Seattle pick.
I don't think they want to get Najee Harris, because you can take. There is an abundance of running backs this year. I mean, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and then there's 2 kids, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, something along those lines. The two kids from UNC, both really good. Like there's a bunch of good running backs this year, so I think they can get them deeper.
What a difference 3 years makes. That it was suck for Sam, and now it's 2 for Sam. Now it's second round for Sam, and it's wild. But
I think Sam could still do it. Whether or not he's going to be elite at any point ever, probably not. But I think putting him in another different situation, I think could rejuvenate his career. I think he still has the opportunity. He's still really young. Like, I think Zach Wilson's probably like a year younger than Sam, and Sam's been in the league 3 years now. So, right. Sam's still young. Put him in the right spot. I think he could do some things, which I think is why the Jets will probably get a 2 or a 3. They'll get some good value out of him. I just don't think, at this point, continuing his career with the Jets is probably in the cards. Like I said, I said earlier that we could give him this year, but I think, moving on is probably good, both for the Jets and for Sam.
Yeah, and I really hope they send him to a good place for that he can at least attempt to bring his career around.
Yeah, I think if Carolina can't give up, this year's draft and next year's draft and Christian McCaffrey to get Deshaun Watson, they might be looking at Sam Darnold. That could be an option.
Yeah. Exciting stuff.
Love to see it.
Al, it's my favorite time of the year. It's started. Baseball has started, basically.
It never ends, man. Here we go. Free agency, draft, baseball. It's all coming to a head. Here we go.
It really doesn't end, but, like, this is my favorite. You feel it in the air. The weather starts changing. Like, all of it is perfect. It's literally my favorite time of the year, and I think that speaks for a lot of people that may, listen or follow any of the teams. This time of year is fantastic, and I'm trying to think, like, obviously, the Mets, they get me excited. We're going to have an excited year. The Yankees, they're going to be exciting. They're going to have an exciting year, hopefully, obviously. But there's certain things that, in general, as a sports fan, you specifically, and me as a Met fan too, but the things that drive some of the excitement in this sport and all the sports, but baseball specifically, is the rivalries that we bump into and that we experience and that we view throughout all of these seasons. So you have the most classic rivalry of all time, the oldest that I can be aware of, the most intense, the most memorable, and that's Yankees-Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Mets, the way I look at our rivalries are obviously interdivision. I despise the Braves, and most Met fans do, and Braves despise us. The Phillies, forget it. That's as intense as it can be. In recent years, I've built up a very big hatred towards the Nationals. There's nothing really there for us in the Marlins. Now, for you guys, we know of Yankee Boston, but here's my question. One, I want to know what your take is. Is the Yankee-Boston rivalry where it has always been? Is it still there? Like, where's the intensity level from like a 1 to 10 in the Yankees-Boston Red Sox rivalry right now?
I think it's up and down. Like early the mid 2000s, it was really intense because you had the Yankees were good and the Red Sox were good. And, everybody loved to hate David Ortiz and Pedro and Manny Ramirez, especially after, Pedro threw Don Zimmer. That was like, we hated him.
Awesome.
Hated him. Couldn't stand him. So that was a big one. Recently, I feel like it's died down because, the Red Sox are trash. So, but in the last 2 years, it's kind of like, fuck the Red Sox. Like, they're getting smoked. So,
but they won. They won in 2018. They won more recently than the Yankees. So I guess my question is, like, I've noticed it too. You're right. It's died down.
No, yeah, it was like right after that 2018 season because they were bad. Right. Like not that they they didn't win the World Series that year. It was they were not good. at all.
Right.
And now all their pieces are gone, and they're completely rebuilding. You know, the Yankees did that rebuilding thing, but that was one season, and I think the Yankees still made the playoffs that year. Like, you know,
They've never
they
had a
lost in the
sub.
ALDS, but still, they were
Yeah, they haven't
still,
had
you
a
know,
sub.
they rebuilt, and you know, they took. No, they might have missed the playoffs that year. They traded Chapman for Gleyber Torres and whatever, and then they got Chapman right back because Brian Cashman's a genius. And then they traded Andrew Miller for Clint Frazier and some other pieces. Justice Sheffield, I think.
Now, but like my thing is that what do you think fuels these rivalries? Like, so for example, for me, you know, and I want to bring Crosstown into perspective. So I know the Mets or Mets fans like myself will hate Yankees more than the Yankees will reciprocate. But I feel like we both have like different things that that get that going for us. Like for me, I'll always hate the Yankees no matter what. For you guys, you won't hate the Mets until they start getting a little more attention than the Yankees. You know, as soon as they're like the talk of the town, it's like, no, fuck that. We're New York's team, and that's where it starts getting built up again. And that might be happening in recent time. But I'm always wondering, like, what fuels these rivalries? Are there ones that no matter what happens? And I'm going to ask my West Coast listeners, too. I'll tweet it out. I'll ask, and I know there's thousands of them listening. You know, you have Dodgers, San Francisco. You have Dodgers, Padres. But, like, what I'm asking now is Dodgers Padres bigger than Dodgers San Francisco just because of skill level and competitiveness? Is there other rivalries that no matter what the win-loss record or what the talent level is, there's just always this hatred? I want to know what fuels rivalries more. Does there have to be fist thrown? Is it about fans' interaction? You know, like what fuels it all? You know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, listen, there is one singular time that I will root for the Red Sox, and I think I tweeted this out a couple of years back. It was something along the lines of the Red Sox winning helped the Yankees get a better seed in the playoffs or something along those lines. That's the only time it's ever going to happen.
Right.
That team, Yankees Red Sox, it's just rooted deeper than everything else. So, you know, it's not as intense right now because they're bad, but there is never a time that I will ever, you know, the Red Sox, I hate them. We hate them, but like right now it's, you know, kind of cool because, you know, they're bad.
Yeah.
I think for you, jealousy definitely plays a part, right? Yankees Mets, because you know for in that aspect, I mean the Yankees have always been better than the Mets since we've been alive. So I'm sure that's got something to do with it. You know, Yankees or Mets fans just are sick and tired of hearing about the Yankees winning, and I'm sure that's got something to do with some of these rivalries. Obviously, like I said, Yankees Red Sox is just rooted deeper in terms of all other things. I mean, it's got it. I feel like a rivalry can't. I guess it can be sparked by just like a specific moment. I mean, this is probably the third time we've talked about it now, but Derek Dietrich and the Pirates, like, you know, he pimped that one home run and they had a season-long thing back and forth. But I feel like that didn't transcend it where to the point where it's like, you know, the teams hate each other now. I feel like now it was just that season, Derek Dietrich, and they hated Derek Dietrich.
Well, let me ask something.
I guess a moment like that could do it, but in order for it to keep going, I feel like it either has to be like a crosstown thing, or like an East Coast or West Coast thing, or a divisional thing, or you know.
But let me ask something real quick. Do you feel like in recent years, especially, and again, it would kind of serve back to like they're actually a competitive team recently. But don't you feel like the Yankees-Rays rivalry has been heating up, especially since like CC Sabathia with, you know, hitting certain guys and cursing them out and on the mound, and now Kevin Cash saying we got 98-mile-an-hour throwers, we'll throw you. You know, there's something brewing there that's had some consistency, at least for let's call it 4 years.
A little bit, but and the Yankees have always had trouble beating the Rays for whatever reason it might be. The same way the Yankees blow out the Orioles every time, the Yankees have some weird trouble beating the Rays regardless of how good they are. You know, there were seasons where, you know, the 65-win Rays got 10 of those off the Yankees and shit. Doesn't make any sense, but it happened. But AL East. So I want all of those teams to do poorly besides the Yankees, but it's not as serious because I know that this year the Rays are going to regress because that's what they do. They're not a great team. They won't be a great team. I mean, maybe this year won't be enough, but eventually within the next year or two they're gonna go back to being the Rays and not being in a World Series and not even making the playoffs. And so I think it's less serious. I think the perfect rivalry is something like a Yankees Red Sox where it's got history and the trade for Babe Ruth, and it's all the way back to 1918, and now we're talking hundreds of years at this point. We're talking about how much we hate them. We're both East Coast, so we're close, and Yankee, like, it's New York and Boston, so it's like big cities on the East Coast, and it's like the accents, the New York accent and the Boston accent. It's like there's a whole there. It's like the perfect storm of rivalries that caused the perfect storm of factors, I guess, that caused this rivalry to be where it's at, right? So it is the upper echelon of rivalries. Like, you talk about sports rivalries, Yankees Red Sox comes up because it's one of the biggest of all time, right?
Yeah.
It's got all of the factors. That one in particular. So I think it is a little bit of everything. I think you said it for you don't think of the Mets and Marlins because
and I have a reason.
And it's not because they're not great.
No. I really don't. No, because we've had our struggles against the Marlins too. And listen, they won a World Series before since we have, and it's relatively recently, if you ask me, 2003. So, and very well, obviously. So, but it's not even about that. The Marlins can win 100 games tomorrow. Not mathematically, but they can win 100 games this season, right?
No,
it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's the entire way that I think they operate their organization too. So I think one thing you also need for rivalries and for you to build up a real hatred as from one organization to another, you need consistency and common players playing there for multiple years. So an organization like the Marlins and the Rays, they don't keep anybody for more than 5.5 seconds. So how are you as a fan or a player? And I'm not saying we need rivalries, but I think it's more intense and it's fun to watch. How are you supposed to hate anyone when in 2 years this guy's not even the same guy who hit Aaron Judge in the ribs with a fastball, or the same guy that hit Michael Conforto or was hitting home runs on against us ain't even going to be there in a season and a half or 2 years. No matter how good or bad they're going to dump them, right? Giancarlo Stanton is an example. So if you don't have the let's see, is a good example, the Juan Soto's are going to be there for 10 years. If you don't have the Freddie Freemans there for me to despise, the Chase Utleys in Philly, if you don't have them there, it's gonna do it, sizzle out. I don't have a hatred towards your players. We'll come up with random reasons to hate you because we're New York, but it's gonna be real tough. That's one big factor. That's a big factor with those organizations.
That goes hand in hand with what I said about the moments, right? You have those moments that can spark that kind of stuff. And, if those moments are a one-season thing, like the, Derek Dietrich pimping the home runs against the Pirates, like that was, a season-long feud, and then it was over. Reds Pirates isn't a thing. But when you have, David Ortiz being this clutch hitter for years against the Yankees and all this nonsense, you build up that hatred for David Ortiz and for Manny Ramirez. And, there's that level of respect because, I respect how good David Ortiz was and how good Manny Ramirez was. But I also despise them because of the things that they were able to do for years against the Yankees. They were always these clutch RBI machines, absolute machines that were able to do these things year after year, time after time, game after game against the Yankees. And I understand exactly what you're saying. The Rays don't have those guys. Evan Longoria is like the longest tenured Ray that I can remember. And he was great for 2 or 3 years, and he was average.
He killed the Yanks.
He did. That's that kind of guy, though. He's not, he is the biggest name that you can associate with the Rays recently, right? And then you have guys you're talking about the Red Sox. We're talking Mookie Betts and Devers, and before that, obviously David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Nomar Garciaparra with the dumbass batting gloves. And then when you brought it up with the Mets, you're talking about
Pedroia, yeah.
you're talking about Utley, Pedroia. You're talking about Utley and Freddie Freeman. Those are like guys that time after time are going to come up against the Mets. They're going to kill your Mets.
Yeah.
And it's that. So it's like they go hand in hand. I think for a really big rivalry, it's got to have a bunch of those factors. And I feel like if you go through and like listen to anything that we've said so far and think about the biggest rivalries, they're gonna have more than one of these factors involved. Where you're talking about consistent teams and whether or not they're in your division and whether or not there's these moments that come up, Don Zimmer being thrown to the ground, like those are the kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think right now the crosstowns are going to be pretty intense for a little while. Steve Cohen's in town. He's going to keep us a competitive team, keep us a good team. The Yankees are always going to be a good team. So I think the crosstown's going to be the most intense. Dodgers, Padres. I think the Padres now, because San Francisco's pretty bad, takes over. And again, West Coast is going to have to correct me unless they already hate San Diego fans. The biggest factor is that they could be all going to school together for all I know. For us, the reason why I hate the Yankees so much is, listen, for a decade and 2 decades, I was sitting in a classroom or hanging out best friend-wise, playing video games, whatever it might be, with other Yankee fans, constantly talking about the Yankees, this, that, and the third. Yeah. I'm not sitting with other Marlins fans and the Atlanta and Philly. I see them enough where I hate them. But like, if you don't have somebody talking in your face, at least hating on your team or promoting theirs that you hate, I don't think you're going to get some of that. You good? You're not going to get some of that intensity.
Myself so I didn't blow out the ears.
You're not going to get some of that intensity. So that's obviously a huge factor. Same thing with Jets, Giants. I mean, we deal with it. We're Mets, Jets, Giants. Mets, Yankees, Giants, Jets. So they're going to have to tell me if right now Dodgers, San Diego is a big thing. Listen, I'm bumping into San Diego's fans that are talking too much on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like Mets and Padres fans are going out. So I can only imagine what it's like between Dodgers and San Diego. So again, unfortunately, it's going to have to do with these teams have to be good at the same time for it to be really intense. But I really like the timeless ones that last no matter what. Yankees, Red Sox, hopefully it stays intense. You want to go to the football? Packers, Bears, that will always be there no matter what.
And that's because it's rooted deeper. It's got everything there. It's they're relatively close in proximity. I mean, Illinois and Wisconsin are relatively close to each other.
Yeah.
They've been there since the start of the NFL. They were both good at the start of the NFL. They went back and forth. Obviously, the same division. It's got everything there, and there's those moments. In some of those games, obviously, I can't recite them because I don't really care about the Packers or the Bears. That's not even in my conference. But I'm sure that if you ask the Bears fan, they're going to tell you all about that time that Clay Matthews hit Jay Cutler too hard, and they despise him for that. And that's something that they remember. And for the Bears, it's the jealousy factor because the Packers have been better. And it's got all those boxes are ticked the same way. Like, for you with the Mets, when you're just talking about the Mets with the Yankees, it's got jealousy and crosstown and like good at the same time. There's a whole bunch of those that factor in. That's another one. Bears, Packers, yeah.
You want to know some of my favorites though?
Go ahead.
The non-division, the non-crosstown, but the manufactured through, like you said, the historical moments that did brew up rivalries. I'll give you obviously an example. Classically is Boston Celtics versus the Los Angeles Lakers. That's the biggest one of all time in basketball. It's hard to beat that one. For you guys recently, Yankees, Astros. You guys at this point, because of the success level, because you guys are the ones that pretty much outed them. John Boy, the Yankee fan base, and whatever are pretty much out, and especially since they bounced you guys from the playoffs. You guys pretty much outed them for the whole cheating scandal. They bounced from the playoffs. You took their best pitcher. There's a lot going on there. I love that because you guys are not even the same division. You just meet in the playoffs. The Mets have one, and they're going to have one this year. We have one historically with the Dodgers, dating back to the 80s. We do.
Yeah.
1988, they spanked us in divisional round, and it ruined our lives. We're supposed to have the best team around after '86, and that carried through for decades. And then as of recently, obviously we beat them in 2015. They took Chase Utley, our most hated player, put him on the team, and he broke our shortstop's leg, who we didn't even like, but just because he was our shortstop, we were pissed. And there is a real non-divisional, but obviously in the league, the National League, rivalry between the Mets and Dodgers when we cross paths.
Yeah,
that's the stuff I like.
Another one. You back to the NFL. You gave your NFL one. I'll give my NFL one. Colts, Patriots.
Yeah.
That was, the AFC Championship game for how many years in a row? And the Steelers had their shots in there, but it was mainly Colts Patriots for a while because it was the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady show, and Peyton Manning ran the regular season, and he couldn't beat Tom in the playoffs, and it never ended. That was one where I'm sure fans will tell you, especially probably more so on the Colts side than on the Patriots side, because the Patriots got the best of them more often than not.
No.
Yeah.
No. Peyton Manning has beaten Tom Brady more times than Tom Brady's beaten Peyton Manning in the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah, 3-2, 3-1, AFC Championship, whatever like that. And
I feel like Super Bowl success probably factors in there.
Of course.
But I'm sure they're I'm sure that they're not the same division, they're the same conference, but because they're both so good at the same time for so long, and you have the who's the GOAT for at the time, for a while it was definitely Peyton Manning. Now it's probably definitely Tom Brady. It's back, and that's another one, another fun one where that core of 6, 7, 8 years built this whole rivalry that never existed before. What I
like about that one is because NFL and especially NBA is a lot more individualistic, if that's the word, for the players, is that you don't just have team rivalries. You have forever career player rivalries, whether they'll admit it or we've created it media-wise, fan base-wise, because obviously when Manning went to Denver, it was no different. It just became Peyton Manning in Denver versus Tom Brady in the AFC instead of Peyton Manning in the Colts. You didn't feel the same thing when it was Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. No, it was just Peyton Manning. So it was so cool because now they had career rivalries because of who they were. In basketball, maybe there's LeBron and somebody else or a few others that you can throw in there. Baseball, you don't have that.
I feel like,
what are we going to throw around? Trout and Bryce Harper? There's not really individual player rivalries. That's all team-based because it's a super team sport.
Yeah.
But football, you might have quarterback versus quarterback rivalries, no matter what. It's cool.
I feel like it's like a comparison thing, and I feel like the fans actually take it more seriously than the players themselves do, because I'm sure Tom and Peyton went out there, and obviously, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, Tom, you beat my ass today, good job. Yeah. They're gonna be pissed at the time, but I feel like they understand how the other feels because they've been in that spot before, and they have that level of respect. Whereas we're just getting on our keyboards and smashing our keyboards. Tom Brady,
And you make a good point. I love the rivalries that the players buy into. Football, I feel like, listen, I understand defensive ends, linebackers, maybe they do because they'll hit a little harder, right? But other than that, the quarterbacks, they stay way too respectful. Oh, yeah, he just beat my ass. They're shaking hands at the end of the day. Baseball, I feel like, does it best where if there's a real rivalry going on, they all buy in. That's why I respect CeCe Sabathia as much as I hate him when he's a Yankee. That dude bought in on whatever rivalry was going on, whether it was in the division, with the Boston Red Sox, or the playoffs, whatever it is. If he was throwing at somebody, he was throwing at somebody who was cursing at them. For us, Mets versus Dodgers with Chase Utley. Noah Syndergaard was throwing behind his ass and getting ejected. I was at that game. And having fans throw shit, and our ass is in the jackpot now, is the classic line of Terry Collins, okay? So I love it when players can buy into the rivalries that us, the fans, are screaming our heads off about, is way better, and vice versa when they don't, and they're just sitting there like, oh, it doesn't really matter whether we got our ass kicked or killed them, and they're not showing it to their division rival or whatever rival it is. It pisses me off. Someone is nice. I will never forget this. Someone is nice and pure and great as David Wright was. He was an angel from heaven. I'll never forget 2015, 2016, hits a single, drives in a run. It was against the Braves, gets to first base. The camera caught him in a bad time, zoomed in on his face, and who's standing there? Obviously, Freddie Freeman. He points right in his face and says, "Fuck you," because Freddie Freeman had like 17 RBIs that game. So we finally took the lead, and just right in the I love that. I want all the players to buy into what you and I are buying into at home.
Yeah.
That's what makes rivalries cool.
It lets us all get on the same page. It lets us really be the players there. We're out here, we're yelling. God, I wish. I feel like the Jets Patriots rivalry probably does this pretty well too in the NFL. It doesn't really work as well in the NFL. I feel like Jets Patriots, at least for Jets fans, because we got our ass beat twice a year for the last 25 years. But like I don't remember if you were there or not. 2016, Week 16, Jets Patriots. Also going on at the same time, Steelers Browns. Jets are 9-5. Jets are 9-5. Steelers are also 9-5, but they hold the tiebreaker. Steelers lose to the Browns, who are shit. Stadium goes nuts. Jets beat the Patriots to make it to 10-6, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick throws a dime to Eric Decker in the back of the end zone, and we all lost our shit. And that's the kind of rivalry that we all want. And it had something to do with the Jets being good that season, and everything to do with the fact that we just put Tom Brady on his ass in MetLife Stadium. Fucking Fitz magic. We were all screaming and yelling like a bunch of lunatics.
See, here's my problem. Here's my problem with the Jets-Patriots rivalry. It's hard to say it's a rivalry because we talked before. It's mostly fueled on who's good at the same time.
It's that hatred thing. But it's not even a rivalry.
Here's my problem. I always feel like, and listen, you can just tell me I'm wrong, but here's the gist that I got from your reactions. I always felt like I hated the Patriots more than any other Jet fan ever did, and that's a problem. I always felt like there was too much of this respect factor, like, well, they have the GOAT on their team, and we have to respect that, and the great bullshit. Say that he's the worst. You should be shitting on Tom Brady, like a guy like Tom Brady. And yes, I know you're a respectful fan, and your game, recognizes game, and you got to give respect. But no, you don't. If you hated this guy who was giving you torture for 20 years or whatever it is, rip the guy to shreds. It should be way worse than what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying the gist that I got was that I always hated the Patriots more so as a Giants fan, which makes no sense, than Jets fans did.
Wrong.
It could be wrong. It could be wrong. But
wrong. We went to Foxborough and we buried that bitch, bro.
Mark Sanchez
sent them packing. How do you think I guarantee you there are some people on the Patriots shit list, and I guarantee you very close to the top of that are Bart Scott and Braylon Edwards for no particular reason. Oh, and Rex Ryan, yeah. But Bart Scott and Braylon Edwards are way at the top of that list. And Bart Scott, because of that dumbass interview he did with Sal Palantonio where he said, can't wait. And Braylon Edwards, because he beat that ass and then did a fucking backflip on the field.
Yep. No, listen, like I said, there's peaks, there's valleys. I get it. I'm just saying I wish it would have stayed consistent hatred. I don't know why. Maybe I just like people hating the Patriots. The consistent hatred, even when you guys were winning 2 games or winning 10 games or beating Tom Brady in the playoffs. I didn't care what it was. But I don't know. I wanted to see more fire.
So I think the thing is, what you saw is the Giant. We obviously were defeated, yeah. But the Giants were in the playoffs, right? So the Giants are a good team, and you have this rivalry with the Patriots. You beat them twice. The Giants are making playoffs. So you're seeing the Jets Patriots never went away. It's just for the other 14 weeks we kind of didn't give a shit because we were getting smoked. Right. And that I'm sure you kind of took as, oh, it's not as serious, Jets Patriots. But those 2 weeks, let me tell you, I'm sitting in front of my TV. I don't care if we're 1-14 in week 17. We're gonna I'm gonna scream at my damn TV to make sure Tom Brady gets his ass sacked.
Good. What are we doing on time?
44 minutes.
So one thing I'm interested to also see, and I don't really care either way. But this will just be kind of a case of a team being at the peak, at their peak, and that's the Blue Jays right now for you guys. And I'm
Yeah,
interested to see if that elevates. You don't have any moments with them. You really don't.
not yet.
You don't have any crazy moments. But I'm wondering if, George Springer can string a few home runs at some key times and Bo Bichette can do some wild things. If you guys can heat up and get something going over the next few years and add that to the mix.
Yeah, I think
Also,
that one in particular is going to come down to those moments because we have
yeah.
Crosstown's not there, but we have the division, and it looks like they're going to be set up for success for a long time. It's going to come down to those moments. If we get a Vladdy bat drop,
Right.
and I don't even know who pitches for them, but if somebody drills Aaron Judge or something. Those are the kind of things where if those build up, it looks like it could be one of those rivalries where Yankees Blue Jays becomes a thing.
Right. Yeah, it's that's interesting to watch. But then I'm also wondering. Here's another little twist to it. Do you have to almost be careful? Listen, not that people are trying to avoid rivalries or certain taglines, but let's pretend we're in the media, right? Do you have to avoid diluting interdivisional rivalries? You know what I'm saying? Like for us, it's never a problem because the Braves and Mets will always have their thing. The Phillies and Mets will always have their thing. But do you have to almost be careful? Let's take the Dodgers now with the Padres and you guys with the Rays, Boston, and Blue Jays, that you can't heat up too much one-on-one rivalries or else it kind of loses its fizzle. It's either you guys have your hatred with Boston and everybody else is second rate, or the Dodgers have their hatred with the Giants and everybody else is second rate, and us with, let's say we pick the Phillies. Or is it no? You can have literally 3 hated teams in your division and it could be just as heated as the next team. Do you think adding teams to the rotation ruins things or really does not affect any of the rivalries at all?
I feel like outsiders are going to look at it and they're going to be like, oh yeah, the Yankees have a rivalry with everyone now. And it's like, but as a Yankees fan, you're going into the season and you're thinking, all right, I hate the Red Sox because you always hate the Red Sox. And, like I said, if this Blue Jays rivalry heats up a little bit, suddenly you're talking about them. And I'm sure you could say the same thing. If all of a sudden, all the Mets, Mets fans hate the Yankees and the Phillies and the Nats and the Braves. And,
Right.
From the outside, it's like, it's stupid. But, you're going to have tons of series against teams that aren't those teams where you're just kind of, you're rooting for your Mets. And then you're going to have those ones where you're like, I hate Juan Soto. And I want it. I want that man. I want that man. I want to see DeGrom wind up and put one in his hip at 105. And you're gonna, the same thing with Freddie Freeman. And in those, I'm sure. I guess there are some teams the shit tier teams where they don't have the ability to have rivalries because they don't check half those boxes because they're just not good enough.
Right.
That don't get the opportunity to have that hatred for other teams and other players and whatever else. But I feel like, I guess from the outside looking in, it feels like it might dilute it for other people. But if you're in the heat of the moment, you're rooting for that team and you're part of that rivalry, nothing's gonna dilute it.
Yeah, no, I guess you're right. Like I said, I'm the Mets fan and the Mets team, and their entire situation is an example of that. I wouldn't say equally, but I'm saying my hatred for the Phillies does not take away my hatred for the Braves, and it doesn't take my hatred away from or competitiveness, whatever you want to call it, from the Yankees. It just doesn't. And I think it's brewing up for the Dodgers too, because I expect to see them now at this high level often in playoff scenario. I really do.
Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Astros is the
exactly.
kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. It's gonna be fun, and the reason why I bring it up, the reason why I think it's such a big topic is baseball, basketball, football. It makes for a better product. The rivalry aspect of things just make for more intense. Whether that game matters in the grand scheme of things, regular season or playoffs, this game is meaningless. Nah, screw that. If you hate that team enough, and the players buy in, the fans buy in, the organizations buy in, you can make that the most intense game of the entire season, even if it's completely meaningless, right?
Oh yeah, bro. The Yankees lock up the 1 seed and they're playing the Red Sox, who are 72 and 83.
Yep.
I hope to God we beat them by 17.
Yep, exactly. And you got to have that. You got to keep that competitiveness. It's like Giants Cowboys. I don't care if the Cowboys locked up the division by week 6 and we are picking first in the. I hope such hard things happen. And I'm not an injury guy. But let me just put that out there.
No,
too.
there is a difference. I'll never wish an injury on a guy.
Exactly, because it'll come back to you. It will. So I never root for injury. But all I'm saying is, I just hope. I don't care. And perfect example, Al. I'm so glad it's coming to me. The meaningless games you can win against your division opponent, especially in football, because of draft picks that are associated. I am so dug deep in rivalries and division hatred for some of these teams, and obviously it's in order of Cowboys, then Eagles, and then whatever you want to call the Washington team, literally the football team. But the Eagles are really starting to brew up there. But I don't care what the circumstances. Call me a dumb fan, call me whatever. I call you a fake fan if you don't share the same energy. You better want to beat that division rival by 80 every time you play them, no matter the circumstance. No draft order can justify, unless maybe you're getting Trevor Lawrence, but no draft order can justify saying, well, I hope we don't beat this team. It's such a loser mentality. It's how can you even how can you look yourself in the mirror if you're going to say, wow, I hope the Eagles beat us today. I hope the Cowboys beat the Giants, or for you guys, I hope the Bills or Patriots beat our asses today because of that draft pick. Fuck that. You cannot call yourself a serious fan. I know you're actually rooting for the good thing for your team, but you cannot have any pride and actually look that in the face and say, I hope that happens. That's what I'm saying.
I think you can be okay with losing if that's the end result, as long as your team busted their ass playing that game. It needs to be like, had the Jets played the Bills week 17 or whatever, I'm gonna prefer they win because fuck the Bills. But if they lose, I have the fallback of, we moved up to second in the draft or whatever. So the post the game, I'm gonna be like, yeah, but draft position during the game, I need Josh Allen to throw 6 picks, and I expect to win by 42.
Bingo. That's totally. I will accept that part.
Yeah.
I will accept the whole, kind of cheer yourself up, come up with fake excuses.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm okay with everything. That's fine.
I gotta move on with my life at the end of the day, dude.
Perfect.
I have to make myself feel okay after that. The pain.
Then I'm totally on board with that. I would have done the same. But if you're cheering for that before the game, if you're saying after you win, oh my gosh, that was a dumb win, or if you're saying during the game, no, I hope it. Please, I don't want to go dark here, but do some bad things to yourself, because that is horrible mentality. But you're absolutely right. I will accept, especially in football, I will accept you coming up with reasons to cheer yourself up. Like, well, it's good for our draft pick. You want to say that? I'm on board because the result's already done. You already lost. I get it. But don't do that during the game. Don't be ashamed of yourself for winning. And don't attack other fans for saying, why are you guys cheering? But screw you. Winning against a division opponent is always going to be a good thing. That's it.
Yep.
That is it.
It's true.
But
yeah,
I'm excited. Rivalries, no rivalries. Baseball season's here. So hopefully it is intense.
Back, baby.
And hopefully, like I said, you want to talk about crosstown? Let's hope for a Subway Series World Series. We'll see how that shakes out.
That'd be fantastic, man. Yeah, let's obviously we're both looking forward to that. Do you know when they play? I'm sure they play again, right?
What?
The Yankees Mets Interleague?
Oh, they play
July,
sometime in the summer. I don't even.
Yeah, it's always.
But I wish I could go there.
It's always 95 degrees with 112% humidity in Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, whatever it is, every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's going to be a fun thing. I don't know if we're going to be able to go to the games, but I hope we can. But
yeah,
appreciate everybody.
I think they said didn't they announce recently that Mets are having fans for
20%. 20%.
Yeah, whatever. That's good. Yeah, I mean, let's wrap it up a little bit. Yankees, Mets, obviously. No. Let's.
Like I said, I want to get some feedback from not only local but some West Coast to let me know how the whole rivalry thing works for them. But yeah. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, let's. How about the Jets sign a cornerback?